If you've been looking for a way to inject some of that buttery out-of-focus magic into your footage, listen up, because this one's going to be a game changer. Don't worry, no matter what setup you got, I'm about to show you a super simple way inside of DaVinci Resolve to get that beautiful bokeh that you're looking for every time. Alright, so before we get into the how-tos, let's just quickly cover what bokeh is. That way we can have a better understanding of what it is we're trying to recreate. Most of us would think of bokeh as just simply a blurry background. But more specifically, bokeh is referring to the quality of the blur in the out-of-focus areas of your image, which is rendered differently by every lens. You can have good bokeh, and you can have bad bokeh. Bad bokeh can make your background look more like noise than an artistic element. It can consist of different things like weird artifacting, jagged or harsh edges, or any other irregular patterns that disrupt the natural flow of the image. Now, good bokeh, that's going to be when we get those soft, pillowy, round orbs of light that are reflecting off of our specular highlights in the image. It helps the image's out-of-focus areas and in-focus areas blend together beautifully. If you're trying to achieve this in camera, there's going to be a few key things to pay attention to. The aperture you're shooting at, the wider the better, the distance from you to your camera and you to your background, and the build quality of your lens. That can be things like how many aperture blades are inside of there, if they're rounded or not. That's going to affect the shape of your bokeh. Now, sometimes it can be really hard to get all these things lined up in one shot and get the perfect shot. Maybe you tried and you got home and realized that your footage wasn't what you wanted. Well, that's why I'm showing you this today, so that we have an easy way to do it in post that's going to look beautiful every time, no matter what footage you have, no matter what camera you're shooting on. I got you. Alright, y'all. So, now we're over here in Resolve, and you can see I already got my clip loaded in that I'm going to use for this, and I've got 3 nodes set up already. Just ignore these. This is just my color space transforms at the beginning and end, and one node with just some basic exposure corrections. So, first, I do want to say that this first method I'm about to show you is going to use studio features. But don't worry if you don't have the studio version, because at the end, if you stick around, I'm going to show you a way to do it for free too. Gets the same effect, it's just going to take you a little more time. I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt-S twice, which is going to create 2 new serial nodes, because we're only going to need 2 effects for this. The first effect we're going to be doing is Depth Map, and you can come up here in this top right corner, click where it says Effects, and then just search for it. Alright, once we've found that, we're just going to drag it onto our first node. Now that we've got depth map on here, we've got the depth map preview checked off, let's just go through some of these settings. Far limit and near limit are going to define which areas it's selecting as the foreground or the background, right? So if I just come and move this, you can see it's going to change the end point and the start point of the foreground or the background. Gamma, it's just going to basically give the image that the mask is working with some more contrast, makes it easier to find those edges for it. But if you do have something that you really want it like on the dot, then this is where you would do that. Target depth is going to basically pick out the plane that you're going to be working on as far as depth of field goes. We can move that back and forth and you'll see what it did there. Tolerance is going to be sensitivity to changes in depth on either side of that focal plane that you've chosen. Softness is just going to go ahead and give the edges nice natural transitions. Again, I like to use that because I think it just looks a lot better than a harsh line. Then we go down to post-processing, and we're going to have post-filter. It helps to clean up the mask. If I'm not working with fine detail like that around the edges though, I don't use it because you'll get some weird artifacting like that. Contract, expand is going to be exactly what it sounds like. Make your mask bigger, make it smaller, depending on your needs. Blur is going to take those edges and make them not so harsh. Next, we're going to have the second effect. So open the effects panel again if you don't already have it open, and search for lens blur. Drag that onto your second node here. We'll just go ahead and enable that. And then if we go back to here, let's turn off the preview. And you'll notice that it is not doing it the right way because we have to go back to this depth map node, and you're going to grab the alpha output. Now, you don't have to add this or anything. It'll already have it added on there. You're just going to take that blue one to the blue triangle on that second node and Now we have the effect applied. You can see we did get some really nice natural looking transitions between the in focus areas and out of focus areas inside of the lens blur tool. Under shape type, you're gonna have real apertures, creative, and external input. External input, you can input your own like PNG image and have that be the shape. Creative is just gonna have different ones. All these right here. So you can see it'll switch it to stars. I'm gonna stick with real aperture and show you the tools on this one. So aperture shape, that's how you select the number of blades that are in your aperture. The more blades you have, the more circular of bokeh you can get, and the more rounded your blades are, which we can control down here, the more circular it's going to be again. So if you want the polygonal, hard edges like that, you can just choose any of these shapes and go ahead, and you can even turn down the blade curvature even more, and then it'll kind of concave it. Or if you want it to be rounded, you can pick one with higher edges and turn that up all the way or to wherever you think it looks good. So you really have a lot of options with this tool. That's why I like it. You can preview your shape here if you wanted to. Speed options, that's just going to be the quality. Blur size, that's obviously going to control how big they are. Then we got rotation. So this is cool if you wanted to like add some rotation throughout, kind of animate your bokeh. You come down here to the first frame of your image, keyframe that, come to the last, set another keyframe, and just change the rotation. Alright, so I'm going to insert in a video right here so you guys can see that, because that is not going to load right now. Anamorphism. So anamorphism is going to essentially stretch out that blur either horizontally or kind of squished in vertically. So the other things that we can mess around with in here is going to be this chroma shift. And let me zoom in on one of these. You can see kind of around the edges of the bokeh, it's going from blue to orange. Highlights is just going to intensify or bring down the highlights. So if you want the bokeh to be more pronounced, you can obviously make them brighter. It's going to pick up those edges a lot more. Apodization, not sure what's going on under the hood with this tool, but I can tell you one thing, it puts a hole in the middle of your bokeh. Next we have catadioptric. So this is going to do essentially the same thing, but if we come over to here to preview shape, if we preview the shape, you can see this one is giving a hard edge, and this one has some softness to it when you do it. Alright, so now for the final and free method, we're going to head into the masking section. Now you can see I already have my two nodes set up. This one is just the lens blur. This is where we're going to create that mask. We're going to come down here to the pen tool and use this. And all you're going to do is simply take this and do a very rough outline of the area. I'm including the foreground, all of it, because that's what we want to be in focus. I'm going to get this traced real quick, speed that up for you guys, and I'll be back. Now that we got that initial mask laid out, we're going to come over here to the tracker window and then come to this where it says add tracker point. Click on that and you'll see we're going to get a red crosshair. It might be blue, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's red, don't know why. But you're going to put that on a high contrast point that is mimicking the motion that you want to track throughout the scene. So I think the tip of his nose will do pretty good for that. We've got our tracker placed, and we're going to hit this button with the two arrows, and that's going to track it back and forth. Not terrible. From this point, you are going to have to go through and fix what the tracker didn't get right. I like to start by just finding a few of the big points with major movements and major changes, and go through and change it on those points and let Resolve try and figure out the points in between. I'm going to do a few of those and then get back to you. We'll see how it went. Also, when you're changing it frame by frame, make sure you switch over to where it says frame. Right here. Now you can see the truly terrible mask that I've done here. Definitely rush through this. Take more time on yours if you want better results, but I'm just trying to give you an example of what we can do with this. We're gonna go back here to the tracker, or the masking window, sorry. And for our last step using this, we're just going to crank up some softness. We want to have a nice soft edge around it again, like all the other ones. Alright, lens blur, pull that up, and this is a free one, so you can use this even without the studio. And again, same as the depth mask, we're going to take this blue output here to the blue input of the lens blur node, and we need to invert this mask. And boom. Now we can go ahead and turn this off. You're going to have all those options to play with in the lens blur effect, just like we did in the previous example. You would just come through, run that, and then got your animated mask and your depth of field effect with the bokeh in the back. That nice creamy bokeh. I hope y'all got something good out of that. I hope y'all enjoyed it. This is my first YouTube tutorial on camera like this, so definitely was a learning process, but I really enjoyed making it, even if it did take a lot of recordings. If y'all did like it though, get something good out of it, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff YouTubers say. I'm gonna go the hell to bed because it's like 4 in the morning, and I'll catch y'all on the flip.